thumbs up yet.
We're on there, so if you want to start, you could. We're on there, so if you want to just do that.
Oh, okay.
I've got to switch over.
Maybe she doesn't give me a thumbs up. Okay. Good morning. My name is Ellen Greenwood, for those of you who don't know me, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I am going to be the worship associate for today's service. It is my pleasure to welcome you to Westside Unitarian Universalist Church. I need to start by letting you know that our minister, the Reverend Carol Baudot, was scheduled to be the associate and work with Morgan on this service, but Reverend Carol is sick in bed with a fever, and so it was not a good idea for her to come. So we will just send lots of healing and comforting energy her way and do our best to carry on without her. Westside is a congregation where our authentic selves, whoever we may be, are welcome. We welcome each person who comes here willing to join us in a respectful, caring community. We welcome all of you who are with us here in person, and we welcome all of you who are joining via the magic of YouTube, whether you watch this today in real time or at some time in the future. Some of us come today bringing our best selves, and some of us come here today bringing our struggling selves. Maybe our hearts have gotten a little beat up this week, so we often forget how to trust and to be open. Your heart is welcome here, whether it is bruised or joyful or somewhere in between. I hope that each one of you will find, as so often I do in this space, that you are right where you belong. And just to make this service more fun and more self-caring, Morgan has provided us with coloring supplies and stickers and some amazing scratch-off artwork that I have never done that just looks like lots of fun. And, you know, sometimes that just helps us to have that to busy our hands with while we are sitting through a service. Many of us find that very soothing. So at any time, just walk on up here and take a look and get what you would like and return to your seat. We will not find that rude at all. Before we really get into our service today, we do have some announcements in the order of service. I am going to do my very best not to read those to you, because you can do that, but please do look at them, because this is how we know what's going on and how we communicate. Those of you at home should find announcements scrolling on your screen, and I do need to point out a couple of things. In particular, next Saturday, Toucan, which is the, help me with this, Tennessee UU Community Action Network, yeah, Toucan, is putting on a safety workshop here at Westside, and we are hosting them. In this workshop, they will particularly deal with how we can go out into the community and stand for our values and still be safe. demonstrating whatever we feel called to do, but to do it in a safe way. And I think there may also be some information about online safety at that. So I think it's going to be a great workshop to attend. There's more information about that in your order of service, and the deadline to register is February 18th, which is Wednesday, I think. Anyway, it's coming up soon, so look into that. And another announcement I need to make, as we learned last week, Priscilla Blanton, who is a former West Sider and whom many of us knew and still have been knowing, passed away, and there is a celebration of life for her today at 2 p.m. at the press room. And 2 or 3 of us, at least, are working on carpooling from here after the service, maybe stopping to get a quick bite to eat and going on downtown, because we do know that parking is very limited at the press room. So I'm going to do that, and so I'll hang around long enough for you to find me after the service if you're interested. All right. So much for all the business that we have to take care of. We will begin the more contemplative part of our service by inviting our singing bowl to sing for us, and I have asked Chris Edkins to come and do that for us.
I'm going to actually see if I can get it to sing today.
I think I've heard Reverend Carroll say that these bowls are very sensitive to the weather and to the moisture in the air and so forth, so maybe this one likes rain. At this time, Morgan will light our chalice and also our community candles, and while they are doing that, I have some words to share with you. These words are by Margaret Weiss, and they are available on the UUA website in their worship web. Come into this place with your whole self, the parts that are raw and exposed, the parts that are beaming with joy, the part that is seeking the truth, the new, the possibility. Come into this space, open your heart, lay down your burden, lift up your hope for something new to happen. Come into this place with fellow travelers on the journey. Some faces new and others familiar, and all welcoming you here. Now, to this moment, come, let us worship together. Sometimes it takes a community to light our candles. So for some time now, it has been our habit to light 2 community candles for every worship service, one for concern for our world and one for joy, or where we can find hope. So we're going to dedicate our candle of concern this morning to the victims and their families of the mass school shooting in British Columbia. I believe they have now said there were 9 victims, many of them children. But aren't we all victims when these things happen? Not to the extent that families are, but we're a part of everything like that that happens. Whether in our hometown or in another country, let's take just a moment to honor these victims, their families, and their community. And at the same time, there's lots of reason for hope in our world and lots of joy. And so we light another candle to honor that. Personally, I have been comforted and sustained for the past couple of weeks by following the progress of the Buddhist monks who undertook a 108-day walk from Fort Worth to Washington, D.C. Inspired by the teachings of Gautama Buddha, their aim was to raise an awareness of peace, loving kindness, and compassion across America and the world. Don't we need that right now? And I have to admit, I was especially captivated by Aloka, the peace dog. The most encouraging thing about their walk has been the thousands of people at every stop that come out to meet them and to hear their message of peace, compassion, and nonviolence. We light a candle of thanks and celebration for the Peace Walk. Now, at this point in the service, your order of service says we have a musical meditation. Well, Reverend Carol, who is our choir director, whether she intended to be or not, and she's very gracious about it, but she was going to lead us in doing that, and we did not feel we would do a very good job without her. So Morgan suggested that we sing This Little Light of Mine. Now, I have to say that, I learned this simple little song when I was a kid growing up in a Baptist Sunday school, and I know many of you did also. And it took me a few years to decide that it was okay to sing it in a UU church, because I was just really sick of all that when I became a UU. But this song in particular, for me, especially with our words that are in our book, our hymn book on number 118, I think it has so many more meanings. As Sing Along Bill mentioned last week, it was picked up by the Civil Rights Movement and used as a sort of an anthem then. And when I sing it now in this gathering, I think of the light that shines from within each one of us. And I also think of our Unitarian Universalist chalice, whose light represents, among many other things, that light that we carry inside each one of us. So the choir is going to come up front and help us lead this. We don't have the words for you because this was a last-minute decision, but it is in the hymn book 118, but I doubt that you need them. The first verse is just the one you know, This Little Light of Mine. The second one is Everywhere I Go. Okay, sometimes I flip them. And then the next one is Building Up a World. So if the choir would come up to help lead, and when they get up here, Sandra will give us a starting note and we'll be off. Okay. Sandra? Yep. This
Okay, hello, friends. Okay, so if we haven't met yet, my name is Morgan Ringelspaugh. I use they, them pronouns. If I haven't told you, there are coloring sheets up here. Please come get coloring sheets, coloring pencils, whatever you need to color at your seat. If you got one of the scratch art things, you may want to make sure you've got a pencil or something on the end so you can actually scratch it off. Otherwise, it's just a blue piece of paper, and that's weird. Or not, it's up to you. But do feel free at any time during the service, you decide you need a different color, you want to do a unicorn instead of Aladdin, whatever you want, you can come up at any time. Not gonna hurt my feelings, it'll actually make me a little happy because you're taking care of your self-care needs. And that is what we're talking about today. I will also apologize. I'm going to be looking down at my laptop a lot because I didn't get to print this out. I finished writing this maybe 20 minutes before service. So if I stumble, that is why. So almost exactly 4 years ago, I gave a similar service on self-care entitled Loving Yourself, Self-Care in the Time of Burnout and Fatigue. Now, 2022, this was right around the end, question mark, of the COVID pandemic. Did it really ever end? Our new normal. And I personally had just entered my first position working within the field of mental health. I thought I was an expert and learned very quickly I am not. I talked about the differences between burnout and compassion fatigue and the realities of living through a collective trauma such as the pandemic. Looking back on that service felt like looking at the instruction manual for some kind of flat pack furniture, only you have the knowledge you're missing screws and the pre-drilled holes are on the wrong side. In other words, 2022 Morgan was existing in an idealized world of instructions and textbook examples. The world we live in today looks vastly different. So this part is going to get a little scary, so as I say it, if you need to color a little harder, step out, plug your ears, that's fine. We are merely 45 days into the year, and if you look up major events in 2026 on Wikipedia, there will be links for 56 events so far as of last night. For all I know, something catastrophic happened, and I don't have that info. These numbers do not include the ongoing issues spanning from AI environmental impact to LGBTQIA+ issues to economic inequalities, to say nothing of the increasing ICE activity or unending wave of files being released. These are 56 individual event entries and headlines to have consumed our media platforms in the last 45 days. In 2022, we were giving advice like, take 5 minutes to practice meditation. And 2026 seems to demand those 5 minutes are to call your local politicians and demand action against a minefield of injustices. It's no wonder that we feel overwhelmed and overstimulated. Before we go any further, I'm going to ask for audience participation. If you thought it was just coloring, surprise, we're going to have a little bit of audience participation further. So what are we feeling right now? Me having read those things and reminded you of the terribleness that's going on outside these walls. How are we feeling? Overwhelmed. Just shout it out, Ash. Anxious, tired, overwhelmed, angry, absolutely. Pressure. Sad. Traumatized. Absolutely. Is anyone else's heart racing just a little bit faster? Breathing changes. Yeah, breathing changes. Absolutely. Any sweaty palms or uncomfortable wiggling in our seats because it's hard to sit with? A little bit? Okay. So I want us to acknowledge that feeling. We're not going to shove it down or put it in a bottle. We're going to acknowledge whatever we're feeling right now. See that it's there and just take a moment to sit with it, but just a moment. Now, we're going to practice some box breathing. Has anyone heard of box breathing? Oh yeah, there's a little bit on either side. Okay. So I'm going to lead it, and this is my first time doing anything like this, so bear with me. We're going to follow along. We're going to breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth, okay? So we're going to breathe in, 2, 3, 4, out. 2, 3, 4, in, out. One more time, in, out. Good job. Thank you, everybody. How are we feeling now with a couple of rounds of box breathing? Relief. A little bit better, maybe not as worried or concerned. And feel free to keep doing it throughout the service if you need it or anything like that. We're going to try to go heavy on the praise today. So if you would like to, again, come get a sticker, get a coloring book, get a coloring page, whatever you need. And notice that here, I'm saying feel free to take whatever you want to use. I'm really bad about saying take what you need, but I also want to acknowledge that we can take what we want too. It's okay to want the sticker. It's okay to want an extra coloring page or to do something silly or just because it's fun. Earlier this week, I bought a chocolate cake, and I kept thinking, this should be for Valentine's Day, but it was a cake just because when you're an adult, you don't need a reason, which is what I wrote on the cake. I want to make sure that we're taking what we want as well as what we need. Now, back in that 2022 service, I defined self-care as, quote, simply the active participation in taking care of yourself. And I want to kind of reframe these things. When we think of taking care of ourselves, a lot of times we think of what's often referred to as activities of daily living. That's going to be things like showering, eating, getting dressed. Sometimes we boil self-care down to those super basic things, okay? When we're struggling with our mental health, as a lot of us tend to be these days, sometimes those ADLs can get difficult or hard to manage. And when that happens, reach out for help, okay? You're not alone. It's okay. It doesn't make you weird or bad or anything like that. Sometimes we struggle, and that is okay. We reach out for help, and preferably we're going to reach out to a mental health professional who can help navigate that situation. If you're one of those people who even the task of finding a professional is daunting, I would be happy to send you resources. Come find me. I'll just give you my therapist card if you want. We can find you help. So I don't want anyone in this room to think they are alone, okay? So if we are so used to thinking of self-care as activities of daily living, what are some other ideas of self-care? Anybody have ideas? Again, shout them out. Exercise. Massage.
Time in nature.
Yes, time in nature. What was that, Bridget? Playing with Legos, doing something for fun. Absolutely. So when I gave that service, I gave kind of 6 different idealized categories of self-care, okay? And this is something that I found in a book, like textbook, on these different areas, okay? It was spiritual, physical, financial, social, emotional, and intellectual. So with these 6 different kinds in mind, we've already named some of them. Some of our spiritual self-care practices may be coming to church, participating in our actual spiritual practices class. Maybe it's participating in building your own theology or conversation. Some people, like I do this, will do like tarot cards or spreads or find meditations. That's all types of spiritual self-care, okay? It's things that we find spiritually fulfilling. Some of those things that you guys mentioned, such as exercise, that can be those physical self-care things. Exercising, yoga, eating healthy, keeping medical appointments or taking your medicine the way you're supposed to, self-care. Emotional, we see things like self-regulation, seeing a therapist, talking about your feelings instead of bottling them up. Practicing emotional hygiene has come up a lot. I know in my job, they actually asked as part of the interview, like, hey, what do you do to take care of yourself? What is self-care to you? And they meant emotional. All right. What about suggestions of financial self-care? Has anyone heard of financial self-care? No one. That is fantastic. I love that for us. So it's the idea of like budgeting and watching where your money goes. And a lot of this starts to sound like anything can be self-care if you boil it down, right? How are you going to take care of yourself in all these different arenas? So financial self-care can also be like keeping a budget, living frugally, eat at home instead of eating out, things like that. All of this are meant to be examples of the types of self-care that we see thrown at us on a regular basis, or at least I do. I see it a lot, but I also specifically curate almost everything to be self-care in one form or another. Social self-care can be attending social events with your friends or being active in online discussions, active in your community, and intellectual would be things like reading a new book or attending a lecture series, things like that. So there's all of these different realms of self-care, all these different things you have to do. And when I originally started into self-care as a whole, it felt like a laundry list of things to do. Even as I was reading all of that, I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is so boring and I'm the one talking. It's a lot, okay? And I feel like the social and intellectual realms, there's some increasing pressure lately over the past few years. We want to learn more about a complex situation or understand the ramifications of social inequalities. I'm trying really hard here not to go into specifics because there are so many that we would be here all day if we were to name everything that there is to learn about or to know about or to research. We want to be involved in our community, so we're constantly looking for ways to help, or at least I know I am. I could probably name 6 different resources, charities, something that needs your help today. It's a lot. It's daunting. We're staying informed, whether that's through news, media, social media, anything like that. We're staying informed on what can feel like today's apocalypse while preparing for tomorrow's cataclysmic event. When we run all of these competing arenas together, the 6 different self-care categories and the expectations of meeting all of these needs at once, maybe it's just my particular brand of neurodivergence, but when 2022 Morgan put all of those expectations on me, it felt like a lot. And even though I'm literally giving a service on what burnout looks like, I'm sitting at the charcoal center of the blaze a lot. Are we beginning to see there's a theme of there's a lot of things happening all at once, and how do we take care of it? How do we address all of it? A few years ago, I tried to do just one thing for each area of self-care. I'm going to only have a $50 Dunkin' Donuts budget. I'm going to stay home. I'm going to get up and do yoga every day. One thing for each area. And it was too much. Even if we do only 6 things per week, it was too much. After trying and burning out over and over for years, I found myself in front of several different therapists, each telling me, well, you just have to get into the habit of, well, have you tried doing this? Well, what about if you do it this way? Telling me things that I heard as try harder, do harder, be something harder. In May of 2025, I found myself in front of my current therapist, who I love, and again, if you need a therapist, I recommend her. And when I told her about how I struggled with all of these things, she looked at me calmly and just asked, why? Why did I need to do that one thing? Why does it need to be done exactly like that? Who told me I had to follow prescribed self-care? Who made up all of these rules? Now, I want to clarify, she wasn't telling me to stop showering, okay? She wasn't telling me, like, why do you need breakfast in the morning? She was telling me, why do you specifically have to do it in this regimented, rigid way? Because I'm the type of person, if you tell me you should exercise every day, then I will stay up until 11:59 p.m. to make sure I exercise. But then I'm not getting 8 hours of sleep. Well, then you're not, how can I eat breakfast in the morning when I have to wake up at 5 a.m. to do the yoga because I stayed up the night before? It goes into a spiral, okay? She was asking me, why was I beating myself up for not doing these things? Why was I so upset over getting those 5,000 steps or reviewing my finances every Saturday night? Who was telling me what I should be doing for my own self-care? Did they know me? Did they know my situation? And she looked at me and asked, what do you need? In this moment right here, what do you need? And how can we get there? Sometimes the answer to that question is really simple. I need to rest. I need something to eat. I really have to pee right now. I need to sit down. If we boil it down, what do you really need? And then how do we get it? Sometimes those answers are really easy. Sometimes they're a little bit harder. Like, I need to gain my sense of self-worth back. I need to learn how to not get so overwhelmed. I need to work on forgiving my father. I need to learn that it's okay to take up space. Those harder ones are the ones to be explored in therapy, in counseling, and more often than not ends up with a lot of shadow work, just to kind of test the waters. How many of us know what shadow work means? Oh, I'm so glad there's a lot of us that do. Thank you. That's fantastic. For those of us who may not be as familiar, shadow work involves the stuff that we don't necessarily want to talk about in our past life. It's stuff that we keep in the shadows. It's maybe the root of why we think those negative thoughts, or the thoughts we've internalized and are ashamed of. It's the things that we have to unlearn in order to keep going in a healthy, positive way. Everyone has shadow work to do. Whether you know it or not, you've got some shadow work to do. And it's hard, and it's difficult, and it's best done with a trained professional. Shadow work could also be referred to as trauma work or deep introspection or the heavy stuff. The boxes to unpack, the skeletons in the closet, all of that. And after every session where we do deep, heavy discussion, I'm told the same thing. Go be kind to yourself. Find something soft to cuddle or something that brings you joy. A few years ago when I did this service, I gave the example of treating yourself as you would treat a good friend, instead of beating yourself up or running yourself ragged. Ask, what would you tell a good friend that was in your situation? You would tell them to sit down, to take a rest, to breathe for a second. Let's practice that some more after we do heavy work. And spoiler, I'm not just talking about that shadow work. We do heavy work every day. We pick up our phones and scroll and see what the new disaster is. Every time we turn on NPR and hear whatever happened that day. A lot of it is heavy work, and we need to practice some more of that softness and that kindness. We need that joy. Recently in a group chat, a friend of mine was talking about how she's really frustrated with herself. She said she drank the water, she ate the food, she went and showered, she cleaned her house, she went outside to see the sun and touched grass. She did all of the things that she's supposed to do. So why do I feel so miserable? And I've been in that place before, and I recognize it well. In those moments, you're spending so much of your energy just trying to survive. I responded to her and spoke from my own experience, and I said, I think you're missing the joy. You forgot to find something or do something that brings you joy. You did everything else but that one requirement. And I know it's really hard to find the joy when things feel so dark. But in my experience, we get out of the dark by trying to find the light, trying the things we used to love. We watch the childhood favorite comfort movie, mine is Lion King. We hug a stuffed animal or a pillow if we have no one else to give us a hug. We color in the simple coloring books. You'll notice the coloring books I brought are Super Cats, Aladdin, and unicorns. There are no fancy mandala coloring except for a few coloring pages because sometimes we need the simple. Yeah, Chris got a mandala. Those are great. I love those. They're great meditative practice, but sometimes we just need to color a kitty cat, and that is okay too. And other times, we may have heard this referred to as tending to the inner child. What would your 8-year-old self find comfort and joy in? I have all of these coloring books and stickers. I bought 0 things for this service. It all came from my closet because these are the things that bring me joy. Do we need to turn on some music and have a dance party? Would that bring you joy? What can we do? You okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Sometimes we got to check in on our friends.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What can we do in this moment to bring us out of those dark spaces of our mind and into the light of living? Just for right now, what do you need? For me, and I'm sure a lot of us, it's really easy lately to fall into those dark spaces, the pits of despair where it feels like nothing is going to change. Everything is falling to poop, to be polite, and there's so much for us to pay attention to and lift into awareness. How are we going to save the world? And this is where we pause. We take a breath and we focus on us. In this moment, what do I need? We remember that we're not alone. We remember all of the cliche hearings that we hear all the time. Put your mask on first. You can't pour from an empty cup. Take care of you so you can take care of others later. Take care of yourself now when it's convenient, or you'll have to do it when it's inconvenient. Once we're out of those dark spaces, we can find a sort of plan to help us from going there. We're going to go there again. It happens. We're all going to feel some version of despair or pain or sadness or whatever we want to call that dark space. It's going to happen. But we can prepare ourselves. We can put in some precautions, some boundaries to protect us for when we do go there. The how to navigate the seemingly dystopian hellscape we live in without feeling the despair and the grief all the time is what we're looking for. I like to think of it as self-care PPE. We all remember PPE from COVID times, right? It's your personal protective equipment, and that's going to be different for each of us. My PPE is going to be different from yours or your neighbor's. All of it has one thing in common: boundaries and the ability to say no. Oops, I lost my spot, I'm sorry. Perhaps your boundaries are, I am going to allow myself 20 minutes of news a day, that's it. Or I will only get my news from a specific content creator or news outlet. I really like Under the Desk because she can give me a rundown in 5 minutes and then I don't have to look at it. But I feel like I'm still being an informed person. person who knows what's happening. Maybe your boundaries are, I will not work beyond this time more than so many times per week. With my new job, it's very easy to stay late because I get so absorbed into it. And I've had to put in that boundary of not going to work after 5 p.m. Doesn't matter what's happening, doesn't matter what's going on. When I get home, I'm doing nothing. No chores, no nothing. I'm going to rest. Maybe it's, I will not commit to anything on this specific day because I need to rest. These self-care PPE boundaries and precautions aren't anything anyone else can tell you to create or to implement but yourself, okay? They are so personalized and so individual because, again, it's about what do you need, not what does this content creator on the internet think I need, not what does my friend over here think I need. What do I think I need? What do you think you need? You're the only one who can put those boundaries and those guidelines into place. And your PPE this year may change next year, or may be different from last year, or this month or next month. At the beginning of the year, I very gleefully messaged the choir team and was like, all right, guys, I'm back. I'm going to do it. I'm going to be in choir. It brings me so much joy. I'm doing it. And then I realized I had only been to one practice, and last Sunday, the idea of standing up in front of everybody and singing was too much, and I just couldn't do it. And so I emailed everybody in the choir, and I was like, hey, guys, I'm not going to be able to do this. I can't do choir every Tuesday, but I will sing loudly in church. That's why at the beginning of our song today, I was over here, and I'm just going to slide out of the way because I'm not going to do choir, but I will sing loudly from the audience. It doesn't mean that I failed or I dropped out or I let anyone down. In fact, Chris replied and was like, that's fantastic. That's what we need. And that made me feel fantastic because I had my self-care needs met and praised. And that is fantastic. Maybe I need to change my version of self-care, or you need to change your version of self-care to what it may be today and right now. Changing our self-care practices means that we're listening to our needs as they are right now and adapting appropriately. It means that what used to bring me joy may become a harder thing to do, and that's okay. I can find that joy another way. The important thing is that we keep reaching for that joy and reaching to meet our needs. Someday that need may be to sit as witness to the terrible, horrible things in the world so that we may learn how to best help. Some days, our needs may be to turn to the leaders of those organizations and ask, how can we best help you? And that's okay and valid. Participating in the social discourse and aiding those around us is just as much self-care as coloring on a Sunday morning. Both are true, both are valid, and both are needed. It's finding the balance between the shadow work and the light of joy. The soul-crushing realities with the things that give us hope and inspiration. And that balance is the tricky part. It's the thing we have to ever be assessing and watching out for and acknowledging. Am I in balance right now? What do I need to take care of myself in this moment? What do I want to do that is going to bring me joy so I don't feel so bogged down in everything? And that balance is just as personal and just as ever-changing as the face masks were back during COVID. Lately here at Westside, there's been some conversation about focusing our efforts in community service and where to turn our collective focus. It's why we have quarterly justice and generosity partners and why we have a board of trustees to guide us along certain pathways, as decided by our many committees and expressed opinions of the congregation as a whole. Deciding what to focus on takes more than just a single person to decide for the many people in this congregation. And how to proceed with social justice work beyond our proverbial walls is also decided by those organizations that are leading those movements. That is to say, when you are ready to get involved in social justice work in more concrete ways, look to those organizations who are spearheading the movements, just as we look to our Justice and Generosity team to direct our community actions. Before Ellen tells us a little bit more about that, I do want to remind about the Toucan event. I know Ellen reminded us earlier as well, but that would be one of the ways that you can kind of turn to those organizations after you've done your self-care and after you've taken your time, okay? We're building set containers for us to do that work in, to have those scary moments in. And we can find the joy in the other times. We can take care of ourselves and address our needs in those other times. There are many, many needs in the world, and your self-care is just as valid as anything else. So I'm going to pause here so Ellen can tell us about our Justice and Generosity partner.
If you are new here at Westside, you may have noticed that we do not have an offering taken. We do not pass a plate. But obviously, we do require income to operate the church and to also do our outreach into the community. So we have various ways that we can do that. There are 2 boxes at the back of the room there, right beside Alice, and one is for just a contribution to Westside, and the other is for our Justice and Generosity partner. There also are QR codes on the outside of those boxes if you prefer to do your giving electronically. And if you are watching us from home, you will find information on your screen and also on our website and in our newsletter about how you can contribute electronically as well. Our Justice and Generosity partner for this quarter is The Bottom. Now, The Bottom is a Black affirming bookstore that's much, much more than a bookstore. It's really a community center in downtown Knoxville. Every time I look at their website and see all the things that they do, it's just amazing to me. And we will have their artistic director come in a few weeks and talk to us about the work of The Bottom. Some of us have gone down to see what they do. If you ever get the urge to do that, it's a great field trip to go down to The Bottom. And they appear to be very welcoming of white people from West Knox County also, or from wherever you're from. But I would definitely suggest that you find out about The Bottom. I also want to mention there's some ways that we have that are just ongoing ways of contributing to our community. And one of the ones is through Family Promise. Family Promise is a program that provides housing for families who are experiencing homelessness by having them spend a week in a church and then the next week go to another church. And we used to be a host church before COVID, and we would have people here for a week. Since COVID, we haven't had enough volunteer support to actually be a host church, but we are a helper church for a Presbyterian church, Farragut Presbyterian, is that right? And we are responsible for one evening meal and preparing it and taking it and hosting it as the people come to eat. And then we also have to have 2 people to spend the night in the church building. Our night is coming up this Tuesday, I believe, and when I looked at the sign-up, there were still quite a few slots open. So if you would like to help with Family Promise, go to the newsletter, go to the website. Let's see, I guess we don't have a QR code right here to help us out, but sign up and help us with that. Thank you.
So I know this service has been kind of all over the place. We've talked about social justice work, and we've talked about self-care and trying to find the balance between everything. And I know that can feel hard and difficult, and honestly, it was a little hard to keep track of myself, and that's okay. There are a few things I want you to remember from today, and this will be acting as our benediction today. Practicing self-care can change from moment to moment. It may be finding a sticker to put on your name tag, or a coloring sheet, or going on a walk. Your self-care could be signing up for information events or watching low-risk television shows. It may be signing up to help with Family Promise, or visiting the bottom, choosing in that moment to support a local independent bookstore rather than shopping online or going to another large brand. Your self-care is different and unique and ever-changing. The important thing is we keep practicing, we keep going, and we remember to continue reaching for that joy. Thank you all. Enjoy coffee and conversation. And grab some coloring sheets.